while. But this is Lia and
That's me, Lou. Hey.
and we're here still trying to share 30 tips after 30 years of plus marriage. 30. Doesn't seem like that, but it's been good. But we just wanted to share some tips and maybe share some of our stories to help some of the people who are viewing this to see that you too can make it with a made-up mind, and that's how we started. We made up our mind.
Yep.
That good, bad, and ugly, and indifference, we were going to stay together. So.
Stay together.
Mm-hmm.
No matter the weather. Yeah.
No matter the weather. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we went over the first 5 years.
First
before?
5 years. So the
Okay.
first 10 years.
Okay.
So we're like towards 2006, and that would be we're going into we got married in
89.
So 1999 was the first 5 years.
89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 99, right? You're right.
99, yep.
Yeah, you're right. 99.
So 99, we covered that. We went over, because that was probably one of our darkest times in our marriage, was year 10.
Year 10?
Yeah, that was a rough year. Challenging year.
That was a challenging year for a number of reasons. We were, I guess, we had been at the first church, I guess, 5 years then?
Mm-hmm.
About 5 years or so, around 5 years. We just had the twins, and money was tight.
Money was real tight.
I don't even think that's a word for it, tight. I mean, it was non-existent. I don't know. Even though, the church, they did the best they could, and they were, they did what they could. But, this was
What they thought was appropriate.
Yeah. And so it was difficult with our oldest, and then the boys. And then you had tried to go back to work.
For a little while.
And then I was home with the boys after taking Will to school or having him go to school.
And then I found out I was pregnant.
The boys.
And then I tried to go back again to work. And that wasn't going to work.
Right. Well, you went to work
prior to the boys.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Trying to help make ends meet.
Right.
And then after the boys came.
With one car. You would take me to work.
Back. I'd take you to work.
Pick me up.
And pick you up, and I'd have the boys in the back seat. And we had a little Toyota Corolla. And I remember when we went on a trip somewhere, on that first trip to Virginia Beach, and we had William in the middle, and we had the 2 car seats on the side, and he was hunched up in the middle, and one big car seat here, one big car seat there.
Yep.
And then the boys had some growth issues because they were preemies, and so they had to wear the monitors for maybe a month or 2, 3 months, for a while, and so we had to carry the monitor apparatus around with us, and so it was challenging. Again, the church was really growing, because we had almost doubled. We had about doubled the size of the church there. God's help, okay, of course, and
but lots of work and attention.
Yeah, a lot of work and attention. Sacrifice, and it really came to a point where we were at that stage where a lot of couples are or get, where you're just like whatever, the arguments start because of lack of funds or lack of time, and
stress.
The stress of work and church, and family, and then we were even around your family. Well,
yes.
Really, both of our family. My cousins and aunts and uncles were there in New Jersey as well, and your whole family was there.
Right, you ministered to them. You were the minister at the congregation where I grew up.
Right, so I was a minister there, and everything that came along with that, and with you being from there, them looking at you like this little girl,
right.
Who are you to tell us anything? And so all of that dynamic, and so it really came to a head that time. We were getting ready to celebrate our 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
And we had
planned
going to
have a
luau and everything. And
I canceled it.
And you canceled it. because I think we had an argument or something about everything. I don't know what it was about.
Can't remember.
And so that was a time when we kind of almost called it quits, and really thought about it. I think that was one time when
I think it was probably me thinking about it more so than you. I think you've always had a mind that.
Well, yeah, like I said in the beginning, we, I think we both did, but that was just, the pressure was just up to here, with just trying to, put everything together, and then it was that one time I think we had argued or something, and William, he heard it, and then he ran into the bedroom, and was crying or whatever, and so we got through that though. We got through that. How did we get through that?
How did we get through that?
A lot of prayer, a lot of
prayer, and you gave. I think you've always been the one that comes and, I'm a little bit more stubborn, I guess. But you came to break the ice that we had to talk about it. I did not leave the house.
No.
I threatened to leave the house, but I didn't.
I was like, Martin, get the stepping. No, I was like, come back. No. But, because you look at, our kids and just, not even the kids, just, ourselves.
And it was just mostly the things that it was. It wasn't our relationship. It wasn't that we didn't like each other. It was because of the pressures that we were feeling from the outside and how to be able to manage all those different things, finances, growth of the family, and just all the different changes.
And I think in any career, military, if you're in the military, if you just have a regular job outside, ministry, learning to navigate those times, when it's lean, when you don't have a lot, and I really, wasn't again the church where I was, was going well, and baptizing people, and they were coming and everything, and but on the home front, it was kind of lacking, because again we were trying to do the best we can with minimal resources, and again not talking about the church, but again this was many years ago, and when they kind of thought, and I guess we kind of thought this was kind of
we had somewhere to live.
Had somewhere to live.
But the bigger our family got, the more expenses became.
Yeah, as with many families. So, so we got through that time, about 10 years or so. We got through that time.
And then by the time, just wanted to go back a little bit to revisit that, because that was just what really, because we have been talking about that. But now we're up to, I guess we're going into our next 5 years, which will be 2007 to 2012.
Now, so 2007. So, but we were in Hopewell by then.
Right.
Because we got to Hopewell, Virginia in 2001. Right? So, that was right at 10, 11 years, wasn't it? Or what? We had been married.
We got married in 89. In 99. And we went to Hopewell when?
So that was like 12 years. We've been married 12 years.
Yeah. So we had got through that hump of 10 years.
We got through that hump of 10 years, right. And then so we moved to the next location in Virginia, and there in Hopewell.
Right.
And so what did you name that?
It was just this time of ministry growth. There were some dark times also during that time, especially in our ministry, in your ministry, because it caused, once again, that shakeup of finances, and then our family was growing, the boys were getting bigger. William was, during that time too, William had went off to college.
Not at that particular
Not that time, but during that period of time.
Because he graduated in 2009. So during that.
Yeah.
During that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
So these 5 years, that's what we'll talk about. And that's when we really became reacquainted as friends again, because the boys were getting, when they were younger, you have to throw so much into them. And sometimes you get, our relationship went to the back burner. Not to the back burner, because we always try to keep it a piece of, but because of what we were doing, a lot of our things that we used to do had to get postponed.
Right, because we put so much into the boys, and not that we forsook each other, but there was just a lot of time. I would spend a lot of time, with the boys,
There's sports and different things, schools,
sports and school,
and all that,
and playing out back. We had a much larger yard, and so they grew up there in the country, and so. But I guess a lot of the stresses and things came from
ministry,
not in a bad way, because we were growing there as well. But I think one of the things I always think about when I think about those times is living up to expectations,
right.
into how
we're supposed to behave.
How we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to behave, what ministry looks like, what kind of church. We had, a brotherhood, kind of church or whatever.
Because
whatever that means.
We've always seemed like our ministry path has always taken us to places where people were like, I guess maybe not there, but our first place was like, why are you going there? What are you going to do there with those people? Or that's a hard place. Yes, it was hard, but there was still opportunity. And we saw growth, and we saw God's hand.
A lot of growth in God's hand, yeah. And I think even, the first place we went, again, I was, told by, two very, very prominent ministers, I'm not going to say any names at the time, 2 or 3, like, what are you going there for? Or, if you're going there, you might just be beating a dead horse, kind of thing, because of some issues. But I think, God's hand was in it, and we saw success with the Lord's help. And I think that is one thing you have to, be careful. It's always good to take advice, and from those who are older, and of course you want to do that, but the ministry God has given you, and you do it to the best of your ability, and if it doesn't work, you go on and somewhere else. But I think in that particular case, in New Jersey, it worked because of I think just sheer passion, part passion, part ignorance, part luck, but all God,
Right.
And so but going back to the second church, those second years,
where we spent the bulk of our time.
I spent the bulk of our time there in Virginia, and so went through the whole gamut of ups and downs and in betweens and round backs and then ups again and
And how do you think we maintain our steadiness?
I think through it all, just our relationship. We were still close. We put time, of course, with the boys, and did the church things. But I think we never lost our connection. We never lost our intimate connection. We never lost, our fun,
right.
connection. We would
laugh about things.
We still laugh about things. Even crazy
even when
things.
we were going through some of the things we would laugh at.
Right.
Sometimes we would cry and pray. We would, but through it all, we trusted each other. I trusted Loruna.
Yeah.
Because I know that God was not going to fail us, and I knew He wouldn't fail me.
Yeah, and and just dealing with difficult people, sometimes, and that's in many churches, many jobs, businesses, whatever it may be. Got to learn how to deal with them, and then not take too much of that home. And I'll say this, for a minister, many times our spouses are the closest thing, to us, and a lot of times, you share some things with her about the ministry, but I would say there are some things that maybe you shouldn't share, and not to put anybody down or anything like that, but there's just some things that God has placed on me, and I think it's good to have a supportive spouse, but you don't want to take everything home, and there may be some disagreement there, and not that you're hiding anything from your spouse, from your wife, but there are just some things that not that you're not able or equipped, and it's just me, and we've talked about this before, and because sometimes church work can be what's the word I want?
Challenging.
It can be, of course, challenging, a lot of ambivalency, not the right word, ups and downs, and things that I have to deal with that I may if I had to think, if I had to do it again, there's some things I wouldn't have brought, to you, because then again, sometimes the spouses they begin to look at people differently, and it might be something I can handle, I could deal with, and you would deal with it differently,
right?
But again, we've talked about this, and we don't always agree there,
No.
But I think
I don't know. There's some things you just can't hide. I'm going to know when you're bothered. I'm going to know when you're hurt. And there's things that I see, but I guess it's the backside that I guess you're trying to protect me from.
Right. Yeah. And I wished that there were some things that I would probably have done better at protecting you from seeing or even saying some things, and there's just some things that as a minister you just have to take to the Lord and let Him lead you through it. But of course, He gives you a loving spouse to help you through that. And again, there's disagreement, in some areas there. But that's, again, that kind of worked. That was something that I went through, and I had to come to the realization that, was sometimes it may not be the best to bring all those things home.
Mm-hmm.
So, what else we got?
I guess that would cover probably being your confidant, finding someone else to talk to about some issues. Because I think that as ministers, you all need an outlet. You need someone to talk to, and if you can't talk to me because of you think you need to protect me from something, that's fine. But I think that you need someone that you can confide in.
Yeah.
About.
But and that's why I think I look at you should always have a mentor. Somebody somebody older, not who you can talk to and they'll tell you straight. And I had that. I had that in Brother Smith. I could always.
And then you had friends too, but
then
you lost a couple of your friends during this time too.
Yeah. Lost a good friend from school, from Southwestern. We would talk a lot about ministry and about lessons and about different things, and we could just talk and just be ourselves. And so that is important to have someone like that especially in ministry. You can just call and say, hey, what's up? I'm not feeling this today. What you got to preach? Or what are you preaching on? And let's help each other. Through these sermons. And again, somebody older that I had in Brother Smith that I could call and say, really share some intimate things, with him about some things I was, going through or about to go through or had been through and needed some advice. And that just kind of helps to get some things off your chest that way,
And then I was thinking about even during our most difficult times financially, I just remember that God always provided what we needed. Because we were gifted lots of times vacations and things like that to help us just get away, reconnect as a family, reconnect to each other, and then come back and do ministry again.
And I thank God for for putting certain people. I can see their faces in our lives, even back at the first church where they would give us money to go out to eat, or where they take us to the Chinese restaurant every Sunday. Or slip some money in my hand, and shaking my hand and put some money in there, and y'all go out to eat, and we would go out to eat, and I think we said one time one of the families gave us a vacation, and we went down and spent a week at a hotel on the beach, and 3 meals, didn't have to pay for anything, 3 meals a day, we felt guilty after a while, start leaving tips, but we didn't, everything was covered. And so God has placed people in our lives like that, and I think God knows what you need. And of course, even in Virginia, God placed many people in our lives who just blessed us.
Right.
And,
other ministers, people
other
in the
ministers,
congregation.
people in the congregation, were really, really good. And any issues or dark times that we went through were just things that just went along with ministry. Dealing with situations, leadership, discipleship, which leads to difficult people sometimes, and but you learn just to just keep rolling and trust in God, trust in the gifts He's given you and the people He's surrounded you with, and just go from there.
And then I think one of the things too is you never completely lost yourself in the ministry. You always made time for your family, me, and the boys. I think that was key to us staying together through those difficult times as well.
And I think probably at a very low point, I never. I always had, something like with me, it was my workouts, going to the gym, running, those kind of things, cycling, that I really put a lot, into that, and that kind of helped through some difficult times.
And that's when you decided to go back to school?
And that's when I started to go back to school. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons, of course, to get smarter, but just to be used in a different way, to be, I guess, marketable, I guess I could say. I don't know if that's the right word to use to others. But
be able to do something else other than just pulpit
preaching, So when I went, back to school, and although it was, a master's in divinity, it still was very rounded, a lot of community kind of work. We were geared toward, and social justice work, and more than just standing in the pulpit, but really it gave me a well-rounded, they did that at Virginia Union anyway, well-rounded education to move in and out of different circles in the community that I'm in.
All right. But I know another thing is, like we always said, we always try to take time for ourselves to reconnect, and we would do that like summer times or anniversary, and probably one of our best. We did a lot of good anniversary things, but I guess the one time we went for our wedding anniversary, 20th when we went to Jamaica.
We went to Bahamas. Oh no, we went to.
The cruise one.
Cruise, and then we went to the last big one was
Jamaica, which was the 25th.
Which was the 25th? 27th, before we came here. It was Montego.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we took a cruise. So we always, would always sneak away and do what we needed to do to refresh ourselves. And sometimes we couldn't go very far. It might just be...
We'll talk about those days.
Just down to maybe the beach or something like that, and sit on the beach. I remember our beach days. And we just go sit on the beach.
But there were times when we couldn't even get to the beach.
No.
And there are times when because my folks lived in Charlotte, and we would, drive down to Charlotte with just enough gas to get down there, and and preach and cash the check before we went home. I mean, that was just a rough spot there, and I think a lot of ministers go through rough spots, with difficulties in the church sometimes.
But I think because of our foundation made it easier for us to get through those times. Because we never lacked in intimacy. We never lacked in laughing together, being friends.
And I think those are the things that really carried us over. The fact that I think we said on the other program or something that we like each other. We love each other, of course, but we like each other. We like to be around each other. We like to laugh. With each other. I'm not a joker per se, but when we get together, we can laugh about certain things. And
his corniness,
and my corniness, and laugh at different people, in fun, and
our situations in our life that we experience, and we can look back and laugh.
We look back and say, Lord have mercy. Why do we even do that? Why do we even go to this place or that place?
Right.
Or put up with this foolishness sometimes, in different settings.
Yes.
And so, but we never lost that I think our connection, the marital connection. No matter what job you're in, ministry, military, corporate, whatever, you can't lose that connection.
No. It has to be a priority in your life. Yeah. And I think our relationship has always been a priority. Like we said earlier, that, you know, we didn't put our kids before us. We thank God for our blessings, and we poured into them as much as we could. Yes, we probably did make some mistakes, but I think overall we did the very best that we could do with them.
Amen.
And so that's why we can sit here, what?
30,
30 years, but 30 years now, and still, you know, we just wanted to just take just a few moments and sit down and share with you all who are listening, who want to listen, and to see and just laugh with us and share with us. And if you have questions, you know, or things that you want us to address, we'll be happy to address it if we can. Regarding ministry, marriage, love, but yep. And Mr.
Right.
Music Man.
All right. Well, that's it for today.
Yep. You all have a great evening, and we'll talk about maybe the lockdown next time. You know, how we're making it through this lockdown together as a couple, and not
We still got many years to deal with, though. We got some more years.
Oh, yes, but right now we'll talk about what's happening now. And I guess the pandemic is a thing, being locked in together.
Right.
How we're making it through.
Right.
All right.
And you look very nice in your yellow today.
Yeah, I try to get dressed up for the last couple of days.
Holla.
Bye.